All right, my phone says it's 12:15, so how about we make a start? How are we all doing? Who's here to actually listen to this, and who's here just to get some work done? Just so I know who I'm talking to and how far back I've got to talk to.
I'm listening.
Listening, one, listen. Excellent. You're not really listening, you don't really care. Let's see if I can grab your attention. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is something that's very, very near and dear to my heart, and it's all about culture and the impact that culture can have on partnering. And it's not just the impact that culture can have on partnering, because partnering to me is not necessarily just two businesses working with one another. Partnering is two people working with one another, two people in your team. So some of you may not be leaders in your business, you may not be business owners, such as myself. You may be team leaders, you may be just members, not just, but you may be members of a team. And you have the ability as members of a team to influence your own corporate culture. And corporate culture for me is something that's been very, very near and dear to my heart for 25 years that I've had the pleasure of having a team of people working with and for me. And to me, it is the single most important thing in an organisation. And the real question is, who's responsible? So let me just ask you a couple of quick questions. Firstly, how many of you here compete with other companies in your space? Yeah, right. Just about everyone puts their hand up, except for the guys wearing these t-shirts, because we call ourselves Switzerland, right? We don't compete. So every one of you competes, and you typically will compete on service differentiation, on price, on product, on we do it better, on we've got better skills, etc. That's how you compete. But the reality is that that's not your competitive advantage. Your competitive advantage actually is the team of people you have and the type of people that you have working within your team and how well they gel as a team and how much they enjoy working with you as an organisation. So for those of you who have worked for a company you didn't like, you wouldn't go out there and sing their praises from the rooftops. You just wouldn't do it. Okay, so why have I got the ability to talk to you about corporate culture though, right? Why have I got the ability to stand here? Under what premise can I talk to you and say, hey, you really need to have a great corporate culture and it's not that hard to build? The reason is because Insentra was ranked 4th in the Great Places to Work study this year. Last year we were 8th, this year we were 4th. There's one really interesting takeout out of that. When we were 8th, we were about 45 people. When we were 4th, we were closer to 70. So this concept of you can have a fantastic culture, but as you grow, the culture changes, is actually crap. Right? Because if you believe that the business is going to grow, your organisation, your team is going to grow and your culture is going to change, then in reality what you're doing is accepting each of yourselves or accepting the fact that you have no responsibility for the culture in your organisation. Each and every person within an organisation is a custodian of their culture. Is a custodian of the relationships that they build with other people in their organisations and outside of their organisations. And if you don't have a culture where people feel united and as one, welcome. Sorry. No problem at all. It's lovely to see you. I think you want to go the other way too. If you don't have a culture in your organisation where people feel comfortable, where people feel like they belong, where people feel like they make a difference, that will absolutely show in everything they do every day. And the statistics are actually there. If you look at the companies that have been in the Great Places to Work study, the companies that have been in the top 25 organisations to work for, and this is globally, by the way, typically perform 3 times better than everybody else in their organisations, and that's also against the S&P 500. So when it gets to even the larger end of the market, those organisations who have fantastic corporate cultures, who get through this Great Places to Work study and are shown to be fantastic, actually perform better than their competitors. Empirically proven. Not something that you want to actually go, that's crap, because it's not. Let me explain how this system works too, just so you understand how do they actually rank an organisation to be a great place to work. There are 2 components to that study. One component is about 60 questions that each and every member of an organisation is asked to respond to. And those questions are ranked 1 to 5. So it might be, I feel empowered to do my job, where 1 is almost always untrue, and 5 is almost always true. And every member of an organisation is invited to respond to this. If you don't have an 80% response, you don't qualify. Okay, we were fortunate enough, we had a 100% response rate, both years. In those questions, the 1 to 5, the only answer they take into account is the 4 and 5. Almost always true, or whatever the one is under that. So almost always untrue, almost always true. They only take 4s and 5s. So if you have a team, just to give you an idea of how that works, if you have a team of 100 people in your organisation, and there's a question that comes up and 70 people rank you 4 or 5, your score is 70%. Okay? 3s and below, just like NPS, 3s and below pretty much don't get included at all. We were fortunate enough to get an overall blended average within those scores of 98% across all of those questions, across all of the people that did the survey in our organisation. So it can be done. Okay, and the important message that I want to communicate with this is that's why I'm comfortable to stand here and say to you how important it is to build a good corporate culture and how important it is that your culture within your organisation will be for the success of your organisation entirely, both working internally and working when you're partnering. Does that all make sense? Yeah, by the way, if anybody's got a really, really clever question, I have a really, really basic fidget spinner for you. In fact, I have about 6 or 7, so that's not a number of people that can ask questions. And I actually think these are really good fidget spinners. Not one, you go. That's what happens when you don't ask a question, but you've got to keep attention, right? Okay, so partnering. What the hell is partnering? Partnering means different things to different people. For me, partnering, what that's about is shared risk, shared reward. It's pretty simple, right? Most people in our industry, God love us, will take the view, you give me product or service, I give you money, partner. No. Transaction. Transaction. If you truly are going to partner, and you look at what we say, right? We are partner obsessed. All we do as a business is transact entirely through the channel. And by the way, if any of you came here to listen to a presentation about Insentra and who are we and how good are we, there's a stand down there. You can go and ask any of our guys who are we and how good are we. We'll tell you what we do. That's not what this session's about. This is not for me to come here and tell you about all the wonderful stuff that we do. Okay, it's more about sharing with you what we've done from a cultural perspective and how important that's going to be for your own business's growth. Good enough plug for you guys to know where our stand is here? Can't miss it, it's all good. Done enough on that? Excellent. So when you partner together, two organisations working together, the single biggest thing that comes up is trust. Because ultimately, people do business with people. How many of you here have the experience that when you go on holidays and you walk past people on holidays, right? You get up in the morning, you go for a walk, and everyone's like, hey, hey, hey. It's great, right? Like you go for a walk, everyone's super friendly because they're on holidays. You come back to your city, and if it's Sydney, it's probably the worst of all of them, and you walk down the street, you say, hey, and someone goes, that guy's a twat. Why did they do that? That's a bit strange. Is this person saying hello to me? But if you walk down the street, you've got a big smile on your face, what you'll actually find is that everybody who's walking towards you will smile at you. If you walk down the street and you've got a scowl on your face, you'll be like Moses parting the seas. It's fantastic because everyone just walks around you simply because your energy levels are so much lower and they can see that you're a bit like, So if that happens to us in seconds as we're walking down the street, what happens all day, every day when you're in a work environment? How many times have you come into the office and had a fantastic discussion with the person sitting next to you, and then the next day you come in and they're like, oh, they're a bit prickly, don't think I really want to go talk to them today, what's going on? How come they're prickly? Did I upset them? Did something go on? Chances are it probably has nothing to do with you whatsoever, even though you might like to think that it's all about you. It's probably got nothing to do with you at all. So what we've done at Insentra, one of the things that we've put in place, and in fact I've had this in place with teams that I've been managing over the years, is this concept of the steam train. Now I'm not going to take you through the entire steam train story, but what I am going to suggest to you to do is go to Google, type Insentra train, and you will get the whole story. Enjoy the read. I'm just going to pick out a few tidbits because I've got about 15 minutes left to talk to you, and if I told you the whole story, it'd probably take me half an hour. So I want to pick out a few tidbits. Let's look at that particular scenario, and let me just paint an example for you. Every month we run a all-hands meeting. Mandatory attendance, everyone who's in the company joins this call. In that call, while we were waiting for everyone to join, one of our guys sat there and said, Ronnie, and everybody's listening, I'm a 2 and a 2. I said, come on, Tim. What's going on? He's like, Ronnie, I'm a 2 and a 2. I'm serious about this. And I said, holy crap, Tim, as soon as this meeting is done, I will give you a call. In the meantime, my phone, which is sitting over there, was in my pocket and it started going nuts. And where it went nuts was everybody else in the business saying to me, as soon as you've spoken to Tim, if there's anything we can do to help him, let me know. Pretty cool. What does a 2 and a 2 mean in Insentra? Every day, every time there is a meeting of more than 3 people, We will start that meeting with, how are you? Personally, 1 to 10. Business, 1 to 10. Because it's not enough to just care how people are doing at work. This concept of leave your personal life at the door before you walk in is all rhymes with fit. Isn't that what you said this morning? Yeah, it's crap. We all have personal lives. They are going to come to work. Reality. Why not accept that, embrace that, and understand that people might be having personal issues? Tim was sitting there at 2 and 2. Conversation with Tim immediately thereafter, he moved from 2 and 2 to actually 6 and 8, really quite quickly. Very, very simple concept, very easy to implement in your organisation. Something I took out of a lady called Sharon Williams from Taurus, and I implemented it in Insentra. Pretty simple concept, and a way for you to know straight up if the person next to you is really pissed off with you or if they're not. Hey, how are you? What are your scores? Oh, I'm a 2 and a 9. Well, great, it's not me. Is there anything I can do to help you at home? Does that make sense? Very, very small thing, right? Very, very small thing. Here's the other thing that causes problems in organisations. It's a word that starts with P. Who's going to come up with a word that starts with P? You're not allowed to be wearing an orange t-shirt. What's the word that starts with P that causes most problems in corporate cultures? People? Well, that's a great one. That's actually not what I was thinking. You can definitely have a fidget spinner for that one. Perception? No. That's reality. Performance? Sort of, but doesn't cause problems in teams. Politics? Hate that word. There you go. It's exactly right. Politics is the root of all evil. The root of all evil. And the root of all evil is actually bitching. As soon as you start bitching to someone else, you start politicking. Given. So how do you actually eradicate politics from your organisation? What could you possibly do? How do we try? Don't live with my head in the sand, right? You can't assume that every organisation is not going to have politics. The reality is an organisation will have politics. The question is, how do you deal with that? How do you minimise the amount of politics you have? We have a policy at Insentra that says no bitching. No bitching. Feel free to vent, but there is no bitching. If you have a problem with someone, we call it a pebble in the shoe. You know, there's times where you get that little pebble in your shoe and you go, it's just annoying me. Not real happy about that. And then if you don't, actually, if you're lazy like I am and you just decide I'm going to keep walking with this pebble in my shoe, at the end of the day it kind of turns into a blister, much harder to fix. Leave it for a few weeks, that blister's going to get infected, much harder to fix. Then it's going to get gangrenous, and the only thing you can really do is lop off the foot. Not a great outcome. So what we try to do is trap things when they are at the source. If you have a problem, go and say to someone, hey, I have a pebble in my shoe. Oh, cool, what's the pebble? Because you know, the majority of people that you will work with are actually fundamentally good human beings. At their core, they're good. All of us. I mean, any of you would look at yourselves and go, yeah, at my core, I'm good. I can be a bit of an asshole sometimes, but I'm generally a pretty good person. And if I know that I'm actually upsetting somebody, if I know that a behaviour I just exhibited caused a problem for someone else, I can then go and address that. But if I don't know that there's a problem, I'm likely to continue repeating that behaviour. It's common sense, right? So trapping people, catching them doing something right, and allowing them to share with each other that they have a pebble in their shoe, that they need to address something with their colleague, and getting that addressed. And if they can't get it addressed, then they need to have that escalated. And I hate the word escalation because escalation kind of has an influence of politics. Right? It's not an escalation in a bad way, it's just a, hey, I'm coming to you to say, can you help me too? Does this all make sense? Is this like one of those things where you go, oh shit, that's really quite simple? Because to me, they're the best ideas. Right? If you can walk away from here with 1, 2, or 3 things that you can take back to your environments and implement them in your environments, I think your own work environments will become better. And quite frankly, for some of you in the audience, you'll be easier for us to partner with. Because your staff will actually be loving what they do every day. Because ultimately when you're partnering, and my slides don't necessarily match what I'm saying, but this one absolutely will. When you're partnering together, and in this industry, with everything that's happening now, I don't know about you guys, I used to fancy myself as a person who knew a lot about technology. I used to fancy myself as that person. I actually don't now. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff because there's just too much going on. It's too rapid. It's evolving so quickly that it's almost impossible to be an expert or a specialist in a broad range of things. The reality is that most of the organisations that you work for or run are starting to focus far closer on certain things to become experts in that rather than broad range. For sure, the top end of town, the big end of town are going to stay broad range, but the smaller ones, the smaller ones are going to be focusing a whole lot more. And that's indeed what we're seeing in the market. So as organisations focus a lot more, they rely on organisations like us to partner with them and help them deliver projects. The reality is, trust has to be at the core of that. Because everything we do in IT is going to break. Does anyone disagree? It's going to break, it's not going to work. And it's not always going to work first time, and when it doesn't work first time, it's going to be painful, and everyone's going to want to protect their own backsides, and everyone's going to want to make sure that they're okay. But if there's a true trust between two organisations, that you actually got each other. For the Americans in the audience, I've got your six. For the non-Americans in the audience, I've got your back. Right? If you know that when you're working together, then all of a sudden you move from subcontracting to truly partnering. If you know that when you're working with one of your clients and trying to actually come to an outcome with them, you'll know that you're actually partnering with your client to an outcome. And everyone wants to do this magic partnering. But the only way that you will represent your company well is if you love the place you work. At Insentra, we call it doing what you love in the company of people who love what you do. Because the most significant part of an organisation's culture, the most empowering and disempowering action that you can take is your love. Now, a lot of people in the audience, guys in the audience, all of a sudden like, ugh, love. You don't express love at work, and then you may have other people in the audience who are like, love, does that mean I'm going to kiss and cuddle and all the rest of it? Well, hugs are free at Insentra, right? We're majority male culture. Kind of helps, but it doesn't help. But hugs are free. Why? Because you know what? Find me a person who actually doesn't want a hug. Right? See that person down at Circular Quay, stand there, says hugs are free. Random people walk up and say, yeah, I'll take a hug, thanks very much. Leading from your heart, doing things from your heart is super critical, because people will see through your bullshit. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I always say culture starts at the top, it percolates from the bottom, but it permeates from within. Which is why I say to everybody at Insentra, you are responsible for the culture that we have. Which is why from when we were a 10-person organisation 6 years ago to now a 70-person global organisation, I have been fighting the trend every time of people saying, oh, Ronnie, when you get to 20 people, your culture will change. Bullshit. When you get to 50 people, your culture will change. I call bullshit. And I can call bullshit because it's true. Our culture hasn't changed, it's evolved. It has evolved. And the reality is I can absolutely put my hand on my heart and I can say to everybody here that the people who work in our business love what they do in the company of people who love what they do. And that therefore means that I can trust them to do what they do brilliantly, to represent our organisation. I can tell you now as the CEO of our organisation, I actually care, my first priority in our organisation is cash. We need to have enough cash so I can pay our staff. That's my first priority. My number one A priority that's right behind that is our team. And the difference is it's not a bullshit statement of, yeah, our team are everything. It's fact. It is truth, it is fact, it is authentic, and I mean it. My number two focus, and for those of you in the room who are our clients, thank you very much, but you are my number two focus. Because I absolutely positively believe that if I have my focus and my leadership team have their focus on their staff and their team, that those people will have a number one focus as being the clients. Because they will love what they do and they will represent our brand in the market accordingly. If you don't like what you do, you don't want to get up in the morning. So many people ask that question, hey, what makes you get up in the morning? I like to ask people what makes them roll over and go back to bed. Because that's the stuff that you don't want to do every day, right? That is the stuff that nobody is interested in doing. So if you want to roll over and go back to sleep, take a long look at yourself. For those of you here who are about to make your organisations lose staff, I'm really sorry. But I say that to our team as well. I said it as recently as last Friday. If you don't want to be here, don't. I'm very happy to find you a job. It just may not be at Insentra. And that's okay. And that's okay. So, a message for all of you. If you don't like what you're doing in the morning, get up and change it. Don't keep doing it. Because you're actually doing yourself a disservice and you're doing the company you work for a disservice. It's actually not fair to you or to them. Because you want to wake up in the morning, you want to go, I love going to work. Not, I go to work to fulfill an outcome, which is earning money, and I need to go home. Because ultimately, that will reflect on your overall results and your organisation's results. So if you want to work for an organisation who's going to be the number one, make it the number one. Come back to what I said before, right? Who's responsible for corporate culture? Each and every single person that's here. You are all custodians of said culture. You all have the ability to influence. Don't tell me that you work for a massive organisation and you can't change the culture. Because I'm going to call bullshit again. I've worked in massive organisations. I've worked in a large investment bank, arguably one of the worst corporate cultures you could ever come across. I built a team with a corporate culture that was superb. A team of people that even now, 20 years later, still talk about the train. Because the train has been with me since then, it's just grown. Okay? If you're an integrator, I've worked in a large systems integrator. That integrator had a good culture. Our team had an awesome culture. You have the ability to create and facilitate that culture. David, can't remember his surname, someone here will. Fidget spinner for those who do. Very senior guy in the armed forces. David, no one knows. When I tell you what he said, maybe you'll remember. Morrison, there you go. Well done. Good catch. Dave Morrison said, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So you know that behaviour of someone who's being a prickly pain in the butt? If you walk past that, guess what they're going to do tomorrow? The same behaviour. You accepted it, it's cool. Same happens for you. When you look at things that are happening around your organisation, you go, oh, geez, I wish it wasn't like that. Get up and change it. Stand up, be audacious, change it. Don't wait for everyone else to change. I tell everyone at Insentra, if our corporate culture changes and you come to me and say, oh, Ronnie, we're just a different place to work now. We're not the same as what we were 2 years ago. I say, great, here's a mirror. Take a good hard look at yourself. What did you do to make this not happen? Does anyone disagree with this? Yeah, logical common sense, like ITIL, right? Just documented common sense. This stuff's not that difficult. What's difficult is ensuring that your organisation allows you to do it. That you're empowered within your organisations to do it. Because I can absolutely tell you that if you have it starting at the top, it makes life a whole lot easier. But if people at the top actually start putting the bottom line first, this whole thing just falls to the wayside. Because the bottom line will grow. It's proven. If you are a great place to work, if people love what they do every day, you will partner better. And in what we're doing now, partner to partner is super critical. Who disagrees with me? Come on, I'm only little. Someone might have to disagree. No one disagrees? Who has tried to change culture in their organisation and has the guts to stand up and say so? How'd you go? Took a while? Hard? It's ongoing. This stuff's not easy.
Work in progress.
Work in progress, right? You know what? Our culture is work in progress too. You know why it's work in progress? Because that number 4 needs to be a number 1. Why does it need to be a number 1? Not because I then want to stand here and say, look, we are the best employer in the country to do this. That's not why we need to be number 1. We need to be number 1 so that everybody who works in our organisations knows that they're working with people who are number 1. Because then they will deliver number 1 level service out to our clients. And when they deliver number 1 service out to our clients, that will help us differentiate. Think about when you buy a car. You go to 3 or 4 different car dealerships generally in the current era. And you will meet with 3 or 4 different people who sell you a car, and they're all selling you the exact same thing. Their only differentiators are going to be price, proximity to you for giving it back to them for a service, a couple of little extras they might chuck in to make you happy, but the reality is, if you get all of those somewhere, but you really like that lady over at that dealership there, you're going to ring that lady and say, hey, I've got this price. I really want to buy from you. This is what's stopping me buying from you, but I really want to buy from you. Can you help meet this price? That's what we do, right? We all do this because we like to buy from people we trust. So if that person there didn't give a crap about their job, do you think you would have actually gravitated to them? You wouldn't have. Let me give you an interesting example alongside that. If I was to sit here now and just say, so this is really important, guys, that you actually give a shit about culture. Culture is just so important, and it makes such a difference to what it can do for your business and your bottom line. How do you guys feel? Pretty average, right? But if I start talking to you like this, and I'm actually passionate about what I'm talking about, because I am, because I do care about this, and I am passionate, and if I can have just one of you walk away having me left a profound impact on you, then I fulfill my own personal why. You can feel that. So if you are business owners, your clients feel that. If you are not a business owner and you're working in a particular organization, your people that you are talking to as a client will feel that from you. They will feel your passion for what you're doing. They will then want to buy from you. If you lose deals on price, you've just been outsold. Bottom line, you've been outsold. You should never lose a deal on price. People buy from people. People buy from people they can trust. To trust people, the people that they're trusting must love what they do, must exhibit that, must do so authentically, must want the people next to them being able to do so. To look to the right and look to the left and say, everybody around here has my six, has my back. Everybody around here is trying to make this the great place to work. Everybody around here knows what they're doing. They know what the vision is of our business. They know our values. They exhibit our values. They understand the boundaries. They're accountable. Everyone in our organisation feels that. I love going to work because I know that I'm going to have someone next to me helping me out when I need to. And I know as a result of that, and because I love what I do, people are going to buy from me. Result, I'm going to make money. Result, come back to what I was saying, I'm going to have cash. I can then plough that cash into my people, who can then plough that into the clients. We can have more cash, we can have more people, we can have more clients, we can have a great business. It's really not that much more complex than that. It really isn't. What's complex is the belief and the dedication and the commitment to actually making this so. And it's a journey, and it's difficult, and it's every day. It's every day, and it's every personality that comes into your teams. And it's weeding out the personality. Not because you as a leader or a team leader or a manager or an owner want to weed out the personality, but because the team weeds itself. Just like a great rugby team who's trying to get to the World Cup would do, they will help somebody on their team, help them as much as they can to get them to the level, but if they're not performing at level 1, they will put them into the reserves. And the reason they will do that is because they know they need people around them who can perform at number 1 to make that team win. So we have a vision of being the number 1 channel services company on the planet. I can stand here unequivocally in front of you and tell you that each and every person who's a part of our organisation wants to work with people who are number 1. Wants to ensure that the people who are around them are performing at their best. Will do what they need to help the team around them perform at their best, so that we as an organisation can ultimately perform at our best. So if you want to walk away from here and differentiate yourselves as a team, as an individual, a team, an organisation, an entire business, a business owner, wherever you sit, hopefully you will walk out of here understanding that each one of you can influence this outcome yourselves. Each one of you can make a difference to what your culture looks like internally as an organisation if you truly believe in it yourself. And if you don't, then roll over, go back to sleep and find another place to work. Because if you want to be successful and you want to know what partnerships are really about, it starts from within. Once you have that within you and you can then be authentic and therefore be trusted by people you're working with, you will then know how to partner, you will then be successful, you'll have a wonderful time at work. Thank you very much. Who wants this? I've never used one of these. Has anyone used one of these? Apparently I twist to the left. And it worked. Look at that. Not good when a guy that looks like me makes a big bang noise, huh? Not special. Why is that funny? All right, thanks everybody. If anybody wants to talk, come up and have a chat.